Hello, Heron and Riverside students. Today we're going to be talking about your annotated bibliography. So make sure you have the PDF version of the annotated bibliography information opened up, as well as the copy of the Google Doc of your annotated bibliography that was also on Google Classroom. You can start by changing your name, adding your name, teacher's name, and then the due date for this, which will be your next physics class. And then we're going to go through some of the important information about the bibliography. Your annotated bibliography is pretty much like a works cited or a references sheet. If you've done a research paper before that has required citations, we'll be using those citations, but then adding summaries of the articles with it that we will then use for your research paper. So this is a very important step to gather your sources and your information for what you'll be using for your paper. So in your annotated bibliography, you will have to find 3 to 5 reputable sources that are reliable and reputable. And this information tells you a little bit about what a reputable source is. Of course, we want to make sure you only have factual information. So some basic information, you have a sheet on Google Classroom called Reliable Sources that is also a PDF that just outlines what does it mean to find a reputable source and reliable. So for example, you shouldn't be using Wikipedia as an actual source. However, you could use their sources if they point you to like a government or an EDU website, another reliable and reputable source. You could use scholar.google.com. It searches only publications and journal articles. You could also use IU Library, has a lot of really good sources. And then once you think you find a reliable source, check a few things. Check the authority. Sites ending in .edu, .gov, .org are all really good examples. Blogs you probably want to stay away from. And then this lists some other information as well. You want to make sure that the information is accurate. So for example, is the person writing it credible? So you could Google the author's name. Do they have good credibility? Objectivity. So is the content provided for public service or educational use? We want to use sites that are pretty, like they're not political and they aren't watered down, but have a lot of really good facts. Usually free of advertising is also a good sign that it's a good source. And then timelessness. Make sure that the date of the information or the last update is clearly stated on the page and it's not too old because, of course, science is always changing. So we want to make sure that your sources are pretty recent. Just because a source that you find maybe doesn't end in .edu or maybe you can't find the author, if it has everything except one, it should be okay. And if you have additional questions, feel free to ask your teacher. Once you find your sources, we can work towards creating a citation. So here is an example of one citation, and you're probably wondering how you do that. Well, Purdue OWL, so by Googling just like Purdue OWL MLA website citation, it will take you to this, the first one on there will take you to a works cited, and you can find a website page, or a page on a website right here. It'll tell you exactly what you need to do. It shows you what should be italicized, what should be in quotations. So follow this. It gives you a lot of good examples. So make sure you find what you're trying to source or what you're trying to cite. Or you could use a website such as EasyBib, or you might know of a different one. If you Google EasyBib, a lot of times it will help you specifically if you just enter your website that you found. So I found a Mars 2020 article, so I'm going to copy and paste that link right into the citation. It is a website, so I just search that, and it helps me to create a citation that's a little bit easier. I may need to add some things, so review that it's all correct. And then I couldn't find an author. I looked earlier. It's important to know that it was released February 17th, 2021, so super recent. And say I checked all the other things to make sure it was credible. I add in the date, and then I complete my citation. And then it's as easy as copying and pasting. I had to make sure that this is an MLA because that's what we want to do it in. It says missing information, so I'd want to review that, of course, but then I can copy and paste it into my annotated bibliography. As you're doing it, you need to make sure that you have it backspaced in that these two lines are indented, so anything after the first line is indented. So instead of writing a paragraph, it's kind of the opposite because this is on the end and then these two lines should be indented. Another thing to note is all of your annotations should be in alphabetical order. Well, once you have your citations, you will need to add annotations. So you will need to have at least 5 bullet points per annotation. So I'm just going to add a bullet point right here. And then I'm going to say one important fact that I found from there. And then I could say an interesting fact, a question I still have, but you need to have at least 5 bullet points total. So it could be any number of, you could have 4 important points and maybe 1 interesting fact, or vice versa. But you need to have at least 5 and then have your 3 to 5 sources. Once that is complete, so you can submit that on Google Classroom. So again, you'll have 3 to 5 annotations and at least 5 facts per annotation. You can certainly include more that will help you in the long run to have even more for your essay when you go back and write your essay. If you have any questions, feel free to email your teacher. They would love to help you. And thank you for watching this.